Yo, the Mark Barry Show? Oh, Mark Barry! Tune into it. Woo! Welcome to the Mark Ballard Show. I have my co-host, Eric Ballard, here, and we have the Mayor of Salisbury, Jacob Day, in the building right now. And we're going to be hitting some topics, and we're going to, loosen up a little bit, and talk about some things that's going on in Salisbury, Maryland, man. How you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful.
It's good to see you,
man. It's great to see you. Thank you both for having me here today.
Appreciate you.
Pleasure. Yeah, this is fun.
Glad you're here with us.
I'm excited.
And, well, we're going to just talk about right now, how long you been mayor of Salisbury?
Well, let's see. It is just past 6 years and a month. So 6 years and a month. So I served for 2.5 years as city council president. And the reason that was a strange term, 2.5 years, is because a previous council moved when the elections were. Mm-hmm. So it used to be we'd have spring elections, which have very low turnout, very low participation. Mm-hmm. People just don't think about spring as when they vote. You vote the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. That's when elections are.
Right.
And even though we hold ours off year, and we still thought that was important, we wanted to move it, and or they wanted to move it, and I agreed with them. And they also wanted to move it so that everybody was up every 4 years rather than staggered. Right. So that there was a mayoral election. Because in our form of government, we've got a mayor and 5 council members. Mm-hmm. And when the mayor's not on the ballot, when it was just 3 council members, that was 3 parts of the city that would get attention. But the whole city wasn't engaged in the election process.
Right.
So turnout was even lower. People paid less attention. Now with the form that we have the mayor, 5 council members, each has their own district, but all 6 are getting elected each time. And then it's on November, it's off year. And the reason why that's important is just because it's nonpartisan. We don't have political parties at the municipal level in most cities and towns in Maryland. In fact, there's only 3 that have it. Baltimore, Frederick, and Annapolis. Mm-hmm. But in the 3 strong mayor cities in Maryland, Salisbury, Frederick, and Baltimore, only 2 of them are partisan, Baltimore and Frederick.
That's something new I just learned.
Well, we try, I think there's value in that because, there's not a Republican or a Democratic way to pick up somebody's trash.
Right. Wow. Right.
There's not a Republican or Democratic way to put out a fire.
Right.
You make sure people have the basic services. That's the job of a municipality. We're closest to the people. I mean, I like to think of it as, it's neighbors helping neighbors. I mean, it's literally at the most basic level of services, responding to emergencies, things like that. Federal government doesn't do that. State government doesn't do that. In most cases, the county government doesn't do that. In some cases, they do. Mm-hmm. But at the local level, inside of municipalities, the reason why we created municipal government was to say this group of people that came together to form this little organization called Fruitland or Salisbury or Delmar or Hebron or whatever, we together agree we want a higher level of service. We want these things provided to us, and that's why we incorporated as a municipality.
Okay. Well, Eric, you got questions for him or whatever?
Well, I seem like some of the topics I wanted to touch on today was as far as the mental health issues going on in the area. Like, what are some of the organizations that people going through like mental health issues? And I know at one time it was also like an opioid crisis in Wycomico County, also in Somerset and some of the surrounding counties. So like, what were some of the like organizations people could reach out to here in Wycomico concerning these issues?
Well, you just hit on an incredibly critical topic, because the truth is that the pandemic disguised the fact and probably caused this to some degree, but the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, made the opioid crisis, the opioid pandemic, worse. So we are back to, largely in the United States, we're back to where we were pre-pandemic, or long before the pandemic, on opioids. So, the use of heroin, fentanyl has made it worse. Pills, obviously, it remains a challenge, and it's higher now than it was pre-pandemic. And the reason for that, I think, has a lot to do with mental health. It has to do with economic factors. It has to do with things being closed, resources being cut off from people. People have basic needs when they're fighting and struggling with addiction that need to be met by human interaction. It takes, I need your help.
Right,
I need
indeed.
your help right now.
Yeah.
And when you're not getting that, because I'm sorry, the office is closed, or you can come in. We're open every other Tuesday instead of every Tuesday.
Yes.
What those sorts of things they affect people.
Right.
And many of the drivers of addiction. I don't want to pretend like I'm an expert. I'm not, but I'm aware that many of the drivers of addiction relate back to mental health, and they relate to various economic conditions and also medical predisposition to narcotics and things like
Right,
that.
indeed.
But all of that, on top of a time when people are isolated, away from their fellow man, away from the services, like I said, things only got worse.
Right.
So the opioid pandemic is back, or it never went away, and it was on a good trajectory, and I think it has reversed. Now I believe we've learned a lot of the ways to address that. So I believe we'll get it back down, but we've got to get past the COVID environment too. Now, mental health. Let me address that real quick. So on mental health, I think, to be honest with you, the way that I came to take an interest in mental health was not just through some of the big national events that we've seen, where someone in crisis was either killed in an interaction with police, or someone in crisis committed suicide, something like that. It was right here at home. And we had a police officer here named Aaron Hudson. Everybody knew him as Bull. Bull was a big guy, size of a bull, and just loving, happy guy. I mean, literally the happiest person you had ever met, or so you thought. So I thought. And this was like our friend. This is the guy who walked around downtown, was at the parks with the kids, events, hugging people. Huggable was one of the things at National Night Out that we'd have, and and he'd be you could go and get a free hug for Bull. Which was a pretty good hug.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about to get off the subject to a new one? How do you feel about the homelessness out here in this community and all surrounding areas?
These are connected. These are connected.
Part of the...
So long. I was telling you a long story. I'll shorten it. Bottom line is, I became aware when Bull took his life that we had a bigger problem. That it wasn't something that you could just see on a person's face.
Right.
And that the services didn't exist to draw that out and make people feel like, no, you're going to be okay. And so we've been working on redesigning how we respond to these things. Now municipalities like the city of Salisbury, we don't have a formal role in mental health. We don't have a formal role in homelessness. The federal government, federal law says that tri-county, essentially conglomerations of government, get a pool of money. For us, it goes through the Somerset County Health Department, and that is how we are supposed to end homelessness in America. Well, they've been doing that since Richard Nixon was the president and put that in place. Let me ask you: has homelessness ended in America?
No, it got worse.
No, it's gotten worse. Mental health, the health departments, which are part of state government, attributed to each county, but actually run by state government, not run by the counties. That exists, and that's supposed to address all our mental health challenges. Has that made all our mental health challenges go away? The answer is no. So I think we've got a responsibility at the lowest level of government to say, doesn't matter if the law says we're responsible for it or not. We can help. One of the things I've learned about my organization, the City of Salisbury, is that if motivated right, if pointed in the right direction with strong leadership and if resourced properly, our team can and will go after the problem, and we will help. Now, we can't do it alone. I'm not saying we're magic, but we can make a big dent in it. So on mental health, we just got this grant. There are 3 cities in the United States that received the Target Corporation, Target U.S. Conference of Mayors mental health grant. It's actually a criminal justice, racial justice, police assistance grant, but it's the city of Dallas, Texas, got the large city award. City of Albuquerque, New Mexico got the medium-sized city award, and the city of Salisbury, Maryland got the small city award. And each of us
Congrats.
is fielding. Thank
Congratulations.
you. We're proud that we were selected in a competitive field, but each of us has designed our solution to responding to a person in mental health crisis. And our plan is that we are going to build at first a source through a partner organization called Sante, but ultimately our own department that is going to be responsible for responding to mental health calls. Because not every one of those calls requires a person with a gun to show up with it.
Okay.
Right.
Not every one of those calls requires a paramedic who has life-saving emergency medicine skills. But every single one of those calls does require mental health services. It does require that skilled social worker or psychologist or psychiatrist to show up. It does. So why not respond to that? We don't respond to a criminal call with a paramedic. We don't respond to a paramedic call with a police officer. So why are we trying to respond to mental health calls with one or the other?
Right.
Let's answer the problem with the tool we need. Just because we didn't have that tool in our tool belt before doesn't mean we can't get it in our tool belt.
Right.
Right.
So on homelessness, which is almost always connected to either addiction or mental health issues, and there is in every case an underlying economic issue. It may not mean they don't have enough money, but may mean that their substance abuse issue or their mental health issue is keeping them from spending their money in the way they should on housing. And there's always a crisis point, where they stop paying their bill or something like that. And then sometimes it's purely economic, but frequently there is a mental health or a substance abuse disorder connection to homelessness.
Right.
Well, I've gotten to know the homelessness problem here very well. And so in 2017, and not because I'm an expert on this, 2017, I sat down with all the homeless organizations. There were a lot of them, private, nonprofits, county, et cetera. And I sat down and I said, what do we do? I see people out on the street. What do we do? And they said, are you serious? Will you really listen? I said, yeah, I don't know what to do. You tell me what to do. Because at the end of the day, people pick up the phone and call my office and say, what are you going to do about this person who's panhandling or homeless? And yes, we can give them the legal answer, which is if they're panhandling, they're not breaking the law. There's nothing we can do. The Supreme Court says that is protected speech. They're allowed to stand there and ask for money. So you can't do anything about it anymore. Since 2018, you can't stop that.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that.
Learned that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Also worth knowing is that panhandling, we know the names of almost all the common panhandlers in Salisbury. We've gotten to know them because our homeless services folks go out and talk to them. They are almost to a single person not homeless. They have a house in Salisbury. They pay their rent or they pay their mortgage. But they have an addiction.
Right.
In most cases, there's an addiction. And the addiction drives the need to go find supplemental income. And so they're standing on a street corner asking for money. So you think you're helping someone who's homeless. Chances are you're helping someone who has an addiction. And maybe you're helping them feed the addiction. Maybe you're helping them feed their belly. But either way, it's a different challenge.
Yes, it is.
So let's get back to homelessness for a second. So 2017. You know what they said to me across that table? They said, you want to end homelessness, there's only one model in America, and it's the state of Vermont's model. And it is starting to find homes in other big cities, but here it is. At the end of the day, it is housing first. I said, well, what does that mean? They said, you house them first. So what, we're going to just put a roof over their head, and then they're going to have their the addiction still, and they're going to have the mental health problems still? I said, no, that's not what we said. We didn't say housing only. We said housing first. You get a roof over their head, so they're not fighting for the basic stuff. I mean, if they can't even brush their teeth, how are they going to get a job interview?
Sure.
Right.
If they're in the woods and it's snowing on them and raining on them, how can they be expected to stabilize their life? They cannot. And so we, through that process, stood up Housing First Salisbury. We're the only city in America with fewer than 250,000 residents that has a Housing First model. So that means we provide permanent supportive housing. So we've now housed 31 chronically homeless people. Chronic means they were homeless for at least a year, on the street for at least a year. We have now housed 31 chronically homeless people permanently. So it's a lifetime commitment. They will be housed for the rest of their life, paid for by the city of Salisbury. And there's a three-way lease agreement between the landlord, the tenant, and the city that says we'll pay. they can't destroy the place, obviously.
Right.
They
It's
can't
something
kick
like
out the
HUD.
windows.
Is it like
It's
something
like,
like HUD?
that, but it's the city. And so
Okay.
instead
Okay,
of
it's for the city.
instead of the
Okay,
federal
that's great.
government, HUD, because HUD has voucher programs.
Right.
Yes.
It's essentially a voucher program,
Mm-hmm.
and then we spread it around the city. Now, in addition to that, we just launched and just announced our plan to build, and we just funded a tiny home village. So that will house an additional 25 people. And this takes us, that's 31, 25, and we want to add more vouchers to ultimately get all 100 people who in 2017 were chronically homeless on the streets of Salisbury. And that 100 number has lasted for about 10 years.
Right.
It's 105, 85, 90, 92. We have not seen more than 100 chronically homeless people.
Wow.
There are more people in housing instability situations, especially in the pandemic, but that gets addressed through that mostly gets addressed through pandemic assistance, federal aid, the rapid rehousing programs, the voucher programs that exist. What the city wants to do is take the people who are at the worst point, these chronically homeless individuals, and get them into housing.
So with the Housing First program, is it certain areas that these houses will be developed in one set fixed area, or will it be all over Salisbury?
It's been all over Salisbury. So since 2018, we've had them all over Salisbury. So you wouldn't know, right? So you might not know that your next door neighbor is a formerly chronically homeless person, but they're living right next door to you. Their rent's getting paid, and it's just like a federal housing voucher program in that way. And the beauty of that is there's actual dignity lent to that person's life. So instead of saying we're going to build a building for homeless people and put you in there, it says no, we want to. And here's the thing about the tiny homes. The tiny homes are a step. Because ultimately, that's not a permanent solution in my mind. It is one step in the process. So we're going to do 6 to 12 month leases as we get them into our voucher program. So it's a way to get them off the street. Because at the end of the day, they're still on the street right now. I want to get them off the street and into the shelters, which are HVAC. We'll have a bathroom building, a shower building, mail, storage, community area, all of those aspects to respond to.
Let me ask you a question. That same topic that you're talking about, the homelessness and all that.
Yes.
I want to know about the people that's been incarcerated, who's been released from prison or jail. They only have one outlet, and that is social services for them to get food stamps, and that is it. It's really a hard time for those guys to get a grip and get going. And I want to know if you have a program for guys and ladies who's been incarcerated, and what roles should they follow?
Well, so in the government world, the term that's being used now is returning citizens. So that's the term that's government comes up with different terms all the time. So returning citizens, so people coming out of prison, coming out of jail, who have been incarcerated for some period of time and are coming back to the world. And I think what we know, there's tons of evidence that shows this. What we know about society is that when you remove someone from it, you can't expect for them to easily come back in.
Right.
And that's part of the problem with prison and jail. And I'm not saying there aren't terrible people who have hurt children, done horrible things, been violent, whatever, who shouldn't be locked away from society for as long as possible, right? But there are also lots of people who are coming back. And do we want them to come back broken and unable to build relationships, or do we want them to come back whole and ready to contribute to our society and to our community, to our neighborhoods and our businesses in our streets? We want all of that, right? So clearly, I think the system that we have in general has failed. It's a terrible system, and all but for the worst offenders, it is not designed to get people back into society.
No.
And while I can't pretend to be able to solve that at a municipal level, we don't have a jail, we don't have a prison, we don't run those things, but what we can do is, as people come back to our community, we can contribute. So one of the things that we have proposed that will start with the standing up of this tiny home village is a reentry work program. Because one of the things that we've got out there is we've got plenty of labor needs around the community. We've got plenty of needs from a supervision standpoint, like helping to watch over this community, helping to work on maintenance and things like that, and even other things outside of the tiny home village around the community. But it's an opportunity to make money, an opportunity to get work, opportunity to, if you need it, to get housing, because there is also frequently a connection between formerly incarcerated and homelessness. And the only people who cannot participate, who cannot be housed in any of our programs, and that's because they can also not be housed in any HUD program, in any federal or state voucher program, is people convicted of homicide, people convicted of sexual offense, or people convicted of arson. It's just because it's too high risk.
Right.
But otherwise, every other category of crime is covered by of criminal offense in your history is covered by this scenario. So I believe that our program that we call A Way to Work, that's what we call the program, is going to provide that opportunity. And I think it's the sort of thing that will attract private funders too, that people will want to be involved. Because ultimately we want to get people into jobs that are stable and long-lasting, training programs. There are great training programs that require nothing other than a desire to work in this community, like the steel, metalworking, and welding programs up on the north end of town. All of those have given people a second chance at life to go make great money, make a lot more than the mayor makes by going to learn welding or metalworking or steel fabrication.
So would it be a way for like this re-entry program that it gets funding, correct?
Yes.
So would it be any way for like
city taxpayer funding?
Would it like fund certain people re-entering society from prisons to like take courses at Warwick or things of that nature?
And yes, I'm glad you said that, because in the conversations that we've had with some of the supporters of our homelessness programs, and there's a connection, there's a linkage to these things. One of the things that continues to come up is that when we offered the idea of A Way to Work, which is our work program, the question immediately came up was, are there ways to help people into other jobs too? And now again, that's focused specifically on people who have lost housing, who have been homeless for some period of time.
Okay.
But again, there is significant overlap. And our Way to Work program, ultimately, we want to be available not just to the homeless, we want it to be available to returning citizens and to panhandlers. And the reason why that last part is important is because at the end of the day, there is usually, like I said, an underlying reason they're panhandling. And we would love to get them to do something else with their time and make money.
Right.
Absolutely. Go make a career for yourself. And hopefully we can guide them into services like substance abuse counseling, things like that too.
Yes. Transitional.
That's right.
That's right.
And so Warwick Training and Christine Chestnut, who is our Housing First Director, she's our Housing and Homelessness Manager. Christine has designed and worked with Warwick to design and identify the courses that would be we would first direct people to guide them into. And then we've got employers out there, including Chesapeake Shipbuilding, who we want to guide workers to once they develop some of those basic skill sets.
It makes sense.
It makes sense
because, once people get some kind of money coming in, it gives them independence.
Right.
And I believe that once people get the right resources and that independence, they start to feel secure about themselves. And I believe that also will cut back on crime.
Of course.
Because, the underlying of crime most of the time is poverty.
Absolutely.
So,
it's economics. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I definitely believe that program will work. It may take time.
It will. No doubt about it. I've also learned there's no silver bullet out there. I mean, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of pushing on different levers, and you got to push all of them at the same time. One of the things as mayor, you get a lot of people will say is, why are you wasting time on that instead of working on this? And it's like, well, let me tell you something about the job of mayor. You got to learn to walk and chew gum at the same time. There are always priorities and there are always trade-offs and decisions to make, but you have to push on 100 levers at the same time. And that's why you have a big team. Because at the end of the day, one of the ways I explain that too is when I go to like elementary schools and talk to kids, and try to explain to them what city government does. I explain to them. We talk about the departments, and they guess. They guess police, and they guess fire. And then they don't know what code enforcement is, so we talk about that, and homelessness, and we talk about water and sewer. And they're like, "Do you think the mayor goes and helps people out of a fire?" I mean, don't get me wrong, I would, but do you think that's my job, or do you think my job is to enforce the laws with crime, or it's to provide the water to your house, or to clean the water when the sewer comes out? Like, no, I don't do that alone, right? It's a big team. It takes 450 people to do all those things. So that big team is absolutely critical, and without the rest of them, one man or woman could never get it done.
Well, I like any people that you would like to speak to, any guests, people that you like to send a shout out to, or anything like that.
Well, look, at this time of the year, I think I just have to say that Santa's going to come see my little girls here soon. So, we got Santa's going to come see you, Lily and Olivia. I'm sure of it.
I think you're more excited than they are.
Oh yeah, it's hard not to be seeing their little faces.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard not to be.
Indeed, man.
I like to send a shout out to Rap Fiend Radio in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Rush the Guillotine and Epiphany. I like to say peace to y'all. And every Saturday I will be on Rap Fiend Radio from 5 to 6 o'clock p.m. But you just tune in and listen. And I'll give y'all the links on my Facebook page, or just hit my inbox, and I'll let y'all know what's going on with that. Eric, what do you like to say, homeboy?
Man, I just want to say Merry Christmas, man. Thanks to Mark for giving me the opportunity to co-host on the Mark Ballard Show today. Thanks to the mayor. Nice meeting you.
Pleasure.
A pleasure.
Likewise.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you, John.
Yep. And that's basically it of the Mark Ballard Show with Mayor Day here and Eric Ballard here. And I just end the show by saying peace.